Ya. Saya akan alright, so saya akan share screen lah ya. Share screen so that it is easier for me to for you to follow my navigation in here ya. Okay, bismillah. Sebelum tu saya recordkan the meeting is to be recorded for the benefit of who is not able to attend today ataupun mungkin line pun may not be very good. Recording has started. Okay. Okay, so I share the screen. So we look at the PowerPoint presentation here. Okay. Okay, bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Okay, so remember last week our topic is property available for payment of debt. Yeah. So for today we are going to look at the doctrine of relation back. Remember what is the doctrine of relation back? So a bit of further explanation. And then we will also relate. So I would like to explain on the commencement of bankruptcy. So certain clarification needed. I think last week there's something missing dalam explanation of the doctrine of relation back. So I add something more actually to I think will help you to understand better. So we don't really want to macam go in depth in it. Sebab kalau ikutkan dia punya aspect of this application of this doctrine is quite macam dia macam besar sifat dia, macam is wide in application. So if you look at the provision in the Insolvency Act, so there are many other provision which actually exclude the provision of the section 47 which apply ataupun which provide for the doctrine of relation back, and there are also other provision as well which further apply the doctrine of relation back. However, we just look at this in summarily, because for the topic of bankruptcy we just have actually we are allocated 7 weeks. So this has been more than 7 weeks actually we have dealt with this, we have dealt with this. Okay, and then we need to move further to another topic that is winding up. Yeah, so boleh kata kita tengok kat sini in summary only. Yeah. So for today, I would like you to see the connection between the doctrine of relation back and the commencement of bankruptcy. What does that mean? So when is the commencement of bankruptcy? When a bankruptcy order has been adjudicated by the court. Yeah? So that's basically introduction to it. So remember this part. Kalau saya kecilkan saja slide macam ni, okay tak? Atau kena besarkan? Boleh atau nak besar?
Kecilkan boleh.
Can see, yeah? Alright. So remember this one, basic idea, property available for payment of debt. Yeah. So general idea is that all property which belong to the debtor, yeah, all vested in the bankrupt. That means the property which is within the possession of the bankrupt, yeah, at the commencement of the bankruptcy. Yeah, so the issue is when is the date of the commencement of the bankruptcy. So that is actually explained by section 47 according to the doctrine of relation back. Yeah, so we would like to go further into this, yeah, as to what is the commencement of the bankruptcy and what does that mean. So I made a mistake last week when I said the point of time in which the property is vested to the bankrupt is at the bankruptcy on the date of the bankruptcy order. Okay, however, it is actually the word or the term of commencement of the bankruptcy is actually explained by section 47, that is on the time that an act of bankruptcy has been committed by the bankrupt. Yeah, so it is actually explained by the section 47. Okay, so we look at this commencement of bankruptcy. So in section 48 just now, it says all property which belong or vested in the bankrupt at the commencement of the bankruptcy. So now we look at when is the commencement of the bankruptcy. Yeah? So this is explained under section 47, subsection 1. So it says, so remember the first part of the provision last week. The first one is the general provision of it. So that is the bankruptcy of a debtor shall be deemed to have relation back to, and commence at the time of the act of bankruptcy being committed. So the point of time which is crucial is the date of the act of bankruptcy. So here, so this is in the situation when there is one act of bankruptcy. That is the act of bankruptcy being committed on which a bankruptcy order is made against him. So that is the first situation. So remember when you serve bankruptcy notice, what is the act of bankruptcy on the part of the debtor? Remember, what is it? Under section 3, subsection 1, paragraph I. So what is the act of bankruptcy? When you serve bankruptcy notice.
Compliance with bankruptcy notice.
That's right. When the debtor does not comply with the bankruptcy notice, that means the debtor does not pay the amount of the debt which is demanded by the bankruptcy notice. So on that day, 7 days after the bankruptcy notice being served on the debtor, an act of bankruptcy has been committed. So as to the title of the DGI, Director General of Insolvency, it relates to the time on which the act of bankruptcy has been committed. So you got this? So that is the first situation under section 47, subsection 1. So another aspect is that when there are more acts of bankruptcy, mungkin ada 3, ada 4, for example, act of bankruptcy which have been committed by the bankrupt person. So it says the bankruptcy of the debtor shall be deemed to have relation back to, dia relate balik kepada, and to commence at the time of the first of the act of bankruptcy proved to have been committed. So maksudnya it must be proven lah, the act of bankruptcy. So for example, if there is any transfer made by the bankrupt person before the bankruptcy notice being served on him. So if the act of bankruptcy has been, kalau transfer tu has been proven, and the time is of the transfer is within 6 months prior to the presentation of the bankruptcy petition, then the title of the DGI will relate to the transfer, the date of the act of bankruptcy made by the bankrupt person. So this is the two situations in which the bankruptcy will commence, and the title of the DGI will relate to the time on which the act of bankruptcy has been committed by the debtor or the bankrupt person when he was adjudged bankrupt. In such a situation, kita tengok dulu tentang macam introduction sikit lah, what is doctrine of relation back. So the provision of section 47 is based on the doctrine of relation back. So it is actually macam a principle. Bila kita sebut tentang doctrine, it is principle ataupun it is, we can say it is a framework which is developed by the court. Along macam mungkin sebelum Insolvency Act has been codified by the Parliament. So there were many cases which actually developed the doctrine ataupun the principles of law which relate to the bankruptcy issues. So when we talk about doctrine, it's like macam framework, and the doctrine has been codified in a statutory form under section 47. And then the doctrine may operate to negate the transaction made by a bankrupt to avoid fulfilling his or her obligation. So I read this one. So this is the implication of the doctrine. So if there is any transaction which is made by the bankrupt person, within the time period which is specified, that is 6 months prior to the presentation of the bankruptcy petition, then the doctrine will frustrate the transaction. So this is to ensure that the creditors will have macam masih ada opportunity over the estate of the bankrupt person. So as I have explained to you before, macam it's common situation that a person who is facing bankruptcy proceeding ataupun dia boleh dia can expect that bankruptcy proceeding to be filed against him, so they will transfer all of the properties so that the properties belong to him will not be able to be taken by the DJI. So this doctrine aims to frustrate ataupun to avoid those situations. Yeah. Okay, so that is about the doctrine of relation back. Yeah, so kita tengok case which explain the operation of the section 47. Yeah, the case is Abu Bakar bin Jaafar and Malayan Banking Berhad. The date is 1991, so it's quite macam sometimes already lah. Yeah. Okay, the court says here Muhammad Zaidin J, as he was then, he said, as has been seen under section 47, subsection 1 of the Act, the bankruptcy of a debtor shall be deemed to have relation back to and commence at the time of the Act of bankruptcy being committed, on which a receiving order is made against the bankrupt. Okay, so before the amendment in 2017, the term of bankruptcy order is referred to as receiving order. So in which the property of the bankrupt person will be received by the the DJI. Yeah? Okay, so the term was receiving order, now is the bankruptcy order. Yeah? Okay, hence the property of the bankrupt shall vest in the official assignee, that is the DGI, only upon the making of the adjudication order. Okay, the point of time in which the property vests is on the date of the making of the adjudication order. However, as to what is the property which is possessed by the bankrupt person, the point of time which determine this is on the date of the act of bankruptcy. Yeah. Okay, however, he said, the title of the official assignee, DGI, under the doctrine of relation back is related back from the date of adjudication to the commencement of the bankruptcy. Yang commencement of the bankruptcy inilah yang act of bankruptcy tu. Okay, therefore, any dealing by or with the bankrupt after the commencement of the bankrupt is prima facie invalid. Yeah? Okay, so this is the punya implication. So if there is any dealing, any transfer, any conveyance made by the bankrupt person after the commencement of the bankruptcy, that is the act of bankruptcy, generally is invalid and can subsequently be set aside by the official assignee. Okay, so here the title vests in the official assignee. So the official assignee DGI has power ataupun locus standi kita panggil to set aside the transfer or the dealing. Okay, so that is the explanation about the section 47, which I think is clearer. Yeah. Okay, any question so far? Okay, boleh? So can you follow?
Doctor, just want to reconfirm. So does it mean that the JD dia tak boleh transfer dia punya property starting from when act of bankruptcy has been committed by him? So daripada tarikh tu dia tak boleh nak transfer dah.
He should not do so. Sebab tapi people do so actually, so it's common for people to do so. However, it may be open ataupun it may be subject to the challenge by the official assignee. So by right dia tak boleh buat lah under the law. So because it will frustrate the claim of the creditors kalau dia tak ada harta. Kan contohnya semua harta-harta dia dah jual contohnya ataupun transfer pada anak dia, wife dia contohnya. So the creditors have nothing actually to claim against the estate, the property of the bankrupt person.
Okay. Faham.
Alright, that's good. Okay, so we look at effect of section 47. Kita dah explain tadilah sebenarnya, just to make clear, any transaction to sell or to dispose of any of the bankrupt asset subsequent to the act of bankruptcy would be declared void transaction due to the fact that the bankrupt at the material time had no ownership of the said asset. So remember when upon adjudication of the bankruptcy, the property will vest to the DJI. So property yang mana? Property yang pada masa dia act of bankruptcy has been committed. Masa tu. Jadi sebarang transaction which has been made after the act of bankruptcy, it means the bankrupt person has no ownership sebab title tu dah vest kepada DJI. Okay, so orang yang tak ada title over certain asset, they cannot transfer the title, betul tak? Kalau kita bukan barang ni, contohnya akta ni bukan saya punya, saya tak boleh bagi dekat orang lain. Okay, so that's the simple principle of it. Yeah? Okay, however, to invalidate the transfer of the asset, an action will need to be filed in court. So they tak operate automatically lah. Yeah, so you have to go to the court. That means the officer of the DJI has to go to the court in order to get the court declaration, yeah, that the transaction be deemed void. And if the court give the declaration that the transaction is void, the impugned asset to your asset yang subject to the transfer be vested in the control of the DJI to be distributed accordingly. Yeah, distributed according to the law of bankruptcy. Okay, so that is the effect of section 47, that is the doctrine of relation back. Okay. So as I have, we go further ya. Kalau ada soalan boleh stop saya ya. Okay. So kita tengok locus standi ya. I have explained to you about the locus standi. Remember what is locus standi? Tak belajar CP lagi kan? Okay. Locus standi is the rights to bring case to the court. Ya. Bila kita cakap sama ada orang ada locus ke tidak nak bawa case. So this is an important issue to be determined by the court. Yeah, when a person bring a case to the court. Yeah, so the person who is affected by the mungkin certain the person who is injured by an action of another person, only the person who is injured can bring the case to the court. Contohnya macam kalau kita ada kawan, mungkin lah kawan saya nama A contohnya. So my friend is injured in an accident, yeah, due to the negligence of mungkin a lorry driver, yeah, for example. Okay, so the only person who can bring the action ataupun the matter to the court is my friend. So I cannot bring the matter on behalf of my friends. Okay, so that is the simple explanation about what is locus standi. In order for you to go to the court, you have to have locus standi to bring the matter to the court. Yeah? Okay, to explain this further, we look at the case of Diamax Sdn Bhd and Ivory Indus Sdn Bhd. Yeah, the case of 2017. In this case, there was macam unsecured creditor. Yeah, the respondent the plaintiff was an unsecured creditor to the bankrupt person. Yeah. So he brought the case against the defendant here in order to invalidate the transaction made by the bankrupt person. Yeah. So, however, the court says it is the DJI who has the locus standi. Yeah. Kita tengok ayat dia lah ya. Under paragraph 43 here, in this regard, I agree that under section 47, masa tu dia guna nama Bankruptcy Act lagi lah ya, BA 1967. It is the DJI title to the asset of the bankrupt that shall be deemed to have relation back to and which commence at the time of the bankruptcy. Okay, as such, it is only the DJI who has locus standi to take action to assert any claim with respect to the land, yeah, the land which has been transferred by the bankrupt person. Okay, at any rate, it is my view that being an unsecured creditor, that is the plaintiff in this case, adalah unsecured creditor to the bankrupt person. So remember, unsecured creditor adalah orang pemiutang yang tak ada security kan. So there is no security over the loan given by the creditor to the debtor. Okay, so the court says as the plaintiff is unsecured creditor, yeah, he has no rights, entitlement or claims in or over the land. Okay. So thus, I am of the view that based on the aforementioned reason, the reason given relating to the locus here, the plaintiff has no locus standi to make the present claim with respect to inter alia the land. Okay, so there was an application made by the defendant against the plaintiff claim. The application is to strike out the claim by the plaintiff based on issue of locus standi. So the court agree with the defendant, the plaintiff has no locus standi. So in order for the transaction to be invalidated, the DGI must bring the case to the court, not the creditors. Okay, so understand the issue of locus standi here. So summarily, the person who can enforce Section 47 is only the DGI because the title vests in the DGI. Yeah? Okay, this has been affirmed by a quite recent case, Yu Chin Song, by the federal court case in the year of 2019, as to the matters of locus standi. Okay. Alright, so this is macam about explanation about Section 47. Yeah? So I would like you to look at further to the protection of bona fide transaction without notice. Hadri raised questions as to the protection of bona fide transaction kan without notice. So under, I think you understand under your land law. So the law provide for some protection for the purchaser, who purchase land without knowing that the land is does not belong to the seller. Yeah? So there is a requirement ataupun condition which may allow such a transaction to be valid, even though the seller has no ownership over the matter. Yeah? So this is provided under Section 54. So under this section, any transaction made by the bankrupt person shall stand valid if two requirements are met. That is, the first one, the transaction takes place before the date of the bankruptcy order. So if it is made after the bankruptcy order, then the purchaser could not be protected by the law. Okay, and then second one, the person who enter into the transaction with the bankrupt, that is the purchaser lah, does not have at the time of the transaction a notice. Maksudnya dia tak tahu knowledge. He has no knowledge of any available act of bankruptcy committed by the bankrupt person before the time or any bankruptcy proceeding or any fact sufficient to indicate to the person dealing with the debtor that the commission of an act of bankruptcy has been made by the bankrupt person. Okay, so basically knowledge of the purchaser is important here. So if he has knowledge that a bankruptcy proceeding has been proceeded against the debtor, which later made bankrupt, so he is not a bona fide purchaser. So thereby will not be able to be protected by Section 54. Okay, if these two requirements have been met by the transaction, then the transaction will be valid. So the property which has been passed to the purchaser tu will remain with the purchaser. Okay, so that is the effect of Section 54. Kita ambil satu je dia punya exception for Section 47. Ada banyak sebenarnya tapi kita tak sempat masa untuk tengok lah. So basically we just look at this in brief. Okay, so in order to understand the operation of Section 54, we look at a case here. Re Lois Teresa Cow. In this case, the debtor sold her house to her brother, who gave it to his wife as a gift. So yang ni dia dah ada third party lah dekat sini kan, debtor, okay, and then the brother, okay, and then the wife. So however it is a gift. So the proceeds were utilized by the debtor to pay off some creditors. So it was macam well-intentioned punya transaction lah. Okay, later, about 5 months after the sale of the house, she was adjudicated bankrupt. The debtor has been adjudicated bankrupt. Okay, so official assignee knew about the transaction, so they applied for the transaction to be invalidated in order to recover the house from the sister-in-law. So macam sebab dia relative kan, bila relative dia raise issue of intention, whether it is to frustrate the claim of the creditors or not, whether it is fraudulent or not. Okay, however, in this situation, the court decided that the sale took place before the date of the receiving order, that is the bankruptcy order, which was made against the debtor. Okay, and then another situation is that, which is the requirement of section 54, there was no act of bankruptcy before the date of the transaction for the sister-in-law to take notice of. Yeah, even though it is 5 months before this, before the adjudication of the bankruptcy, the sister-in-law has mungkin tak ada evidence lah, which shows that the wife tu tadi may know that there is an act of bankruptcy committed by the debtor. Yeah. Okay, so that's it for the topic of doctrine of relation back. Any question? So saya tengok chat ni. Ada soalan through the chat? Ada. Okay, so is it good for you?
Requirement tadi tu, yang dua tu, it must be proven conjunctively.
Requirement, yang tadi, yes, it is and. The word used is and. So kena sekali, kena dekat mana ni? Okay, so the word dekat sini and, saya besarkan perkataan and tu. So the two requirement must be met by the person. Okay, saya tak masukkan provision dalam slide je, so it will be too much for us to do that. So in the course of your study, so please have a look at your provision as well. Yeah, for I think you will understand better when you read the provision on your own. Yeah? Okay. Thank you for the question, Syami kan. Ada soalan lain? So, okay ke? Okay, so in that situation kita rehat 5 minit boleh? Dan kemudian kita sambung satu lagi topik. Okay? So, I give you 5 minutes. Kita stop recording dan kita buat recording satu lagi nanti. Yeah? Okay.
Alright, okay.
Alright, thank you so much. Ya, 5 minit, 9.37 lah ya, kita datang balik. Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you.